I'm Anthony Jones, and this is the Always Elevating Podcast. Yes or no, will LeBron James or Steph Curry win another ring?
That's a hell of a question. Oh.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Anthony Jones. Everybody call me AJ. This is presented by my nonprofit, AJ's Automatic Jumper Foundation. Please accept my invitation to hit that like and subscribe button. That will help us to grow the channel. Also, shed some light on Michigan basketball. This is the 9th episode of Always Elevating, and I have one of the best shooters in the world. He has 7 Guinness World Records. He's won 2 $100,000 three-point contests, including Gilbert Arenas'. He's a basketball trainer. He helped elevate numerous kids. He was the winner of my 2nd annual three-point contest and has won several such contests. He was invited on NBA TNT. He was All-State in high school. He was featured on Sports Illustrated for an interview out of Temperance, Michigan. We got Anthony Miracola in the building, man. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How's it going?
Good, man. How about you?
Pretty good, man. So you have so many accomplishments, it's so much to go over. I want to get straight into it, starting with, when was the first time that you started playing basketball, and who introduced you to the game?
I think the first time is probably just when I was a little kid, and my dad, just...
How old were you, approximately?
Probably just right around, messing around at the house, 2, 3, 4 years old. But then I think I started playing in like a YMCA type of league right around 5, 6 years old-ish. Okay. My dad, though, he just taught me how to shoot and dribble and stuff and all that, and I just enjoyed it a lot. And
Did you play any other sports, or was it just basketball?
Yeah, all through like grade school, junior high and stuff, I played, for the most part, I played baseball and football as well.
Okay.
And I thought I was really good at all 3 sports, but I just enjoyed basketball more, and I always, through the years, just put more effort into it and played on like travel teams. And I always, from the point when I was younger, I got really good right away, and I started playing up, I was always playing 1 or 2 years up.
Okay.
I also played with my age, because I was just constantly playing games and, and trying to play with older kids in the neighborhood and just learn how to play. And, being that I was smaller, it helped me figure out ways to create space and get my shot off and things like that,
So if you had to play another sport, like, was you better at baseball or football? Which one would you say?
Man.
If you had to pick one, if you wasn't playing basketball.
I like football more, and I think I was probably better at it, but I was just so small, So I think if I had to choose one, I'd probably choose baseball, just because size isn't as much of a factor, like as far as that, even though I was really good when I was little, and as I got older, I just kind of lost interest and didn't put as much work in on it. But I think I could have been really good at baseball if I really, put forth the effort and everything.
Okay. So I know in high school, like I mentioned, you were All-State. Talk to me about, specifically your senior year, because I know you guys went, deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, my senior year, I had transferred to Whiteford, which is, just over the line, because I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, my whole life, and then I had a friend that lived up in Michigan, and he kind of set me up, introduced me to the coach and stuff, and I just kind of showed up to a few open gyms, and once he had seen me play, the coach was like, man, wow, if you come here,
you have a chance to do
something. Well, what he had said to me was, he was like, you will be All-State if you come.
Wow.
That's what he said to me, and I was like, wow, that'd be so cool. I was thinking in my head, I was like, man, because I always followed high school basketball as a kid growing up, in the Toledo area and stuff, and I always thought, I knew all the guys that were all league, all city, different things, all city, and I was like, man, that's one of the 5 best players in the state. And I was like, man, that'd be so cool. And he kind of, he believed in me, and he made me believe in myself. And I was just like, when he said that to me, I just kind of thought, man, I need to figure out a way to go to this school, just because, if someone likes you and they believe in you, I think that goes a long way. That's more than half the battle. There's a lot of good players, I think, at all different levels that aren't, where the coaches don't like them, or they don't use them properly, or, and I felt like, this guy likes me. He's going to let me be myself.
He has your best interest.
Exactly.
Like
so, and then I transferred there. And there was another guy that transferred from another school, Deerfield, Michigan. and he was really good. And they already had like a decent team. But when you added 2 guys, he ended up playing this guy Bobby Plummer. He played 4 years at Siena Heights.
Oh, okay.
Once we graduated, so he was a good,
good solid player.
Good player, and I think he averaged. I think him and another guy that was Joe Gus, they both averaged like 15, 16 a game, and I averaged like 23, I think.
Oh,
so we, the 3 of us like provided a lot of offense, and yeah, we went undefeated in the regular season. We won the first 3 games and lost in the regionals with 16 teams left or whatever it was to another undefeated team that we won the first 23 games, and that was a close game. And
that's a big accomplishment. Talk to me about like the recruiting. You mentioned that you were like a smaller guard, so do you think that was a factor or a deterrent in like the colleges, trying to recruit you?
Yeah, I think it was a turnoff for sure, but I mean, I got a lot of looks from every small school there was, and but yeah, I mean, I think it was. I also I wasn't a bad player, but I didn't have as much of an impact until that senior year.
Okay.
And I think it was kind of like a late.
Yeah, late to the party.
Yeah, exactly. And especially things, I think, because we're right around the same age, I think things were just kind of getting rolling. It's not anything like it was, or like it is now, that like as far as like getting out and getting seen and getting, it's like
it's much more exposure right now.
It's a whole different world than it was
back
20 years ago. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, no complaints. Everything worked out, and I'm really happy with what I got going. And
where after your senior year, what did you do following, upon graduating?
I was actually I was kind of contemplating all these different schools, and then I ended up going. I hurt my wrist, like I chipped this bone in my right wrist. It probably sounds crazy. So then I ended up having to sit like a year. It was really weird because I what happened was I was playing in this outdoor tournament, and I think it was like $20 a person or something like that, and like the winning team got like $1,000.
Okay.
It was like in Toledo, and this dude ended up taking me out like on a fast break. It was like a real dirty play.
Yeah.
I was like ahead of him, and he tried to get the angle on me, and he just like basically tackled me on the concrete. But I ended up like playing through it for a couple months in the summer, and it just kept getting worse and worse, and then and then it got close. And I was gonna go to Defiance, and then I ended up having to sit out. So then I went to Bluffton, and I didn't even really stick it out. The next year I went to Bluffton, and I played, but I transferred before. I basically put my paperwork in to transfer before the semester, before any games were even played, because I could already see the writing on the wall that the dude was just, he wasn't gonna. Yeah, he was just gonna jack me around. Yeah. And it was a thing where if I would have stuck it out, I'm sure I could have earned more playing time as the year went on and in the future years. But I was just like, screw this guy.
Like, forget
he was an idiot, and I just didn't like anything about him. Yeah. And so then I transferred to Adrian College.
Oh, okay.
And I went there, and I played for part of a year, but then again, I didn't like anything about it. This probably sounds crazy, but I was just, because I'm just not the type of guy who I'm just not going to stick around. Like, even though some of these guys were upperclassmen, like I knew that I was better than them right then. And I was like, I'm not sticking around for this. And I tried to have a few nice talks, and I could see it was going nowhere. So I just immediately was transferred out of there too. And my intentions were to keep playing. And then I was thinking, man, maybe I should just try to just go and play overseas or something. And I was kind of torn, bouncing around with different ideas that next year. So I just went to Monroe Community College for a year. And my intentions were to keep playing. And at the time, I was starting to train kids, and I was doing really good with it. And I was doing it before that, but it started to kind of like build even more. And it kind of just went in another direction, because I was making really good money and doing really well with it, and I enjoyed it. And I was still playing a lot, and I was still like training and shooting a lot, and I was like prepared to play. And then Toledo, Ohio had a team they have now called the Toledo Wranglers, which is like I don't even know what the hell it's considered, the CBA
or ABA.
Yeah, at the time though, I think it was called the ABA when I went to play, whatever it was. So I tried out for that team, and I made the team. And so then I was playing in that. It was considered whatever, semi-professional or whatever the hell it is, or
semi-pro.
You signed contracts and stuff. But then we ended up folding after all the tryouts and the training camp and the conditioning, and then we played, I think it was 4 or 5 games, and they just folded because it was like it was all half-assed. I think it's very common with that. Yeah. And So then after that, but I was still training and whatever and going to school. And then I again, my intentions were to keep playing, but it just kept going to where I was doing good with what I was doing. And then I just kind of got to a point where I was like, man, I'm not going to say I'm not playing, but I'm just going to keep doing this because it's going really good. And I kind of seen the bigger picture that I could take this a lot further.
Okay.
You know, and then it was really weird. I don't even know how I got to that point because I was like full-fledged in on continuing to play basketball, but it took like a really crazy turn. And then but it was like, it ended up for the good though, because I did really good with it and I managed, you know, what I was doing and my money and everything really well. And then I was able to, you know, get my gym and all that. And
so, you know, you're extraordinary at, you know, shooting the basketball. What age, you know, did you know that, like, man, I really can, like, I'm really, really good at shooting? Like, did you have a moment when you thought, like, I'm really good at shooting the basketball?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of moments, but I think right out of the gate, you know, my dad actually is a really good shooter, and he doesn't have like great range, but he's a really, really good shooter, like from inside the 3-point line, like almost like a dead eye. And he used to, you know, kick my ass like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I was still like a really good shooter, and I learned from him, and I just like from the time, I guess right away, like when I was playing at 5, 6, 7 years old, like I was just a better shooter than like everybody.
Yeah.
But I wasn't playing against like great competition or even a wide range.
Right.
But then it was like, then I started to play, and the more I played, then I got into like playing in travel teams, and I was going to like, we had like a little team that we formed from my school, and we used to travel around to all the inner city schools in Toledo and stuff. And we were, and I started to realize the more I did it, and I was like playing up like a year, that I was like a really good shooter. I was like a better shooter and ball handler than like almost anybody I was going against. And it wasn't, and I was trying to be really honest with, I wasn't like saying this to people, but I was just kind of comparing myself to other people. And I was thinking, man, I'm like, because like it got to a point where we were like going to these schools, and you know, we were getting our butts kicked, but then it got to a point after a couple years, we were kicking their butts. You know, we were like beating, like, you know, all the, you know, having to have like police escorts out of the gyms and different things. And, you know, like we had a good team, and, you know, I was the point guard. I was, you know, in these tiny little gyms facing pressure and handling, you know, and it kind of taught me a lot on how to use both hands and handle pressure and pack gyms and different situations. And I think some of that has kind of helped me along the way with my shooting stuff, you know. But I just kind of started to notice, and I got into like junior high and high school, and I started like realizing like nobody can shoot as good as, you know. And along the way I had a lot of people trying to, because my form's not like the perfect form, trying to get me to adjust this, but I never had a problem getting my shot off and making it in games and shoot, you know. So I just kind of did what most people probably don't do. I just kind of stuck to what I was doing and kind of built off it, and just kind of believed in myself and what I was doing, and just kept saying, hey, if there ever comes a point where I don't make shots, or I'm not getting it off, or I'm having difficulty, you know, then I'll start. But I just never got to that point, and I kept having success. And then even as growing into adulthood and still playing and shooting a lot and training and playing on these different, I still kept realizing like doing drills and at practices with college, like I was so far ahead of everybody shooting, like doing anything, that I just started to try and figure out, you know, what can I do with this talent that I have? You know, I think a lot of it is, you know, I'm just naturally like a coordinated, but I just always put in so much consistent effort and improved. It's like anything. It doesn't really matter how you shoot if you consistently work at it and craft what you're doing, like anything, you know, it's, you know, you're gonna be good at it.
Yeah, you talked about your form. You know, I wanted to bring that up because, you know, you have like a push shot, and a lot of people, you know, even after the 3-point contest, they'll call me and they'll talk about your form. I know you heard it. You know, people talk about your form. Why is it, you know, that you shoot that way? Like, what is the reason for it?
Yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily a reason from when it started. I think when I was a kid, I just kind of was having trouble, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing, pushing the ball and just getting it whatever. But then I started to kind of make some minor adjustments as I got stronger, because at first when I was younger, I was like really pushing and throwing it. And then I just, you know, as I got stronger and stuff, I made some minor adjustments, but I was just, there wasn't really a rhyme or a reason to it. I did like the fact, I didn't like, I think the more that you bring your hands and your arms and you kind of confine yourself and almost strip yourself of strength and flexibility and you know what I mean, you kind of start to involve more of your body and your legs. And I feel like when you do things like you can control, like if you're controlling it with your arms and your hands, I think you have better control, if that makes sense, you know, of what you're doing. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like I do use my legs, I do use my body, but I try to put a lot of emphasis on my upper body and my arms and my hands to actually control what I'm doing with the ball. And I mean, some of that stuff kind of came into play the older I got and the more I started to realize what I was doing, and I started to kind of just make some minor adjustments. And like right now I actually shoot, even though I was like a really good shooter in high school and I made all kinds of threes, I shoot a little different than I even did then, you know. And some of it just is almost like anything, it just, some things just kind of naturally took their course and I didn't even like actually do them, you know what I mean? Because I shot so much and trained my mind and my body so much that I started putting just little ideas and reminders in my head that my shot kind of evolved naturally too. But I just never, there's no real reason, man. I like the fact that it wasn't in, and I like the fact that I wasn't blocking my sight. And I, you know, some of that played a role, and just, you know, and
do you think the reason why you're, you know, so good at shooting, is it a combination of your dad, you know, teaching you and just like repetition and hard work? You know, is that the root of why you're so good at shooting?
I think some of it. I think sometimes some people have, just like anything, have to work harder at certain things. And I don't want to say, I think I was naturally just a decent, you know, shooter right away, just more coordinated and like, you know, just some kids, you just throw a ball and some kids can't even walk and chew bubble gum. I was like naturally just decent, and I think because of that, I enjoyed it and I wanted to get better at it and I wanted to work at it and I wanted to, you know, and I went to all kinds of camps and clinics and different things and played on teams, played in the neighborhood. I was just constantly, but yeah, I think my dad showing me the right mechanic, because even though my shot is not perfect, the things that actually matter when you shoot, I do perfect, if that makes sense. And a lot of people that don't know anything about basketball or don't know much about shooting don't actually realize that. Like I do some things that you wouldn't teach somebody or recommend necessarily, but you know, I'm getting arc, I'm getting rotation, I'm getting under the ball, I get a good bend, the angle that I'm releasing the ball, you know what I mean? All the things that actually, that actually matter, I do. You know what I mean? And it's a simple shot. You want something, that's another thing. Like when you shoot a basketball, you want to do something that is repeatable. Like you don't want something, like the less complicated it is, the more, you know, and you know, and it's
the better it be.
Yeah, exactly. And my release was always lightning quick. I mean, that's like kind of proof when you go through my world records. Like a lot of them are based on speed, and I'm just firing away fast, and I'm very accurate. Like I'm by far the most accurate speed shooter that's probably ever touched a basketball. And I'm not being cocky, because I can shoot, and I work on that like for years. I do it every day pretty much. I work on shooting fast and being very consistent doing that, you know.
You know, you have every hooper's dream. You know, every hooper wants to have a gym in their house. You know, you have that. Talk to me about, you know, I know you told me the story before personally, but talk to me about how that came to fruition, that you were able to, you know, get a home with a gym, a full court gym in your home.
Yeah, for years, like kind of back to what we originally were talking about, I got into the training and I was doing well. So I never really had a real job. And I always had the mindset of there's something more in the future that I'm not going to, you know, I'm going to like build towards something. So I just saved money, and I had a lot of money saved up. And I got to the point where I was using a couple different places, but the main gym that I was using, I was kind of like basically getting to the end. It was like they kind of wanted me out. It wasn't like a thing where like we were like
turmoil and nothing
nothing like that, but it was just kind of took its course. You know, I was, because it started off, I just had a few kids, and I was like, I had all kinds of kids, and it was just crazy. And I was trying to be as respectful as I could about it, but it just got to a, you know, kind of a breaking point. And I just kind of told them, like, look, I'm looking, I got a lot of money saved up. I don't want to just jump into something. And then my wife ended up seeing an ad in the Toledo paper about this place that was going up for auction and stuff, and we ended up getting a hold of them, and they kind of thought we were like almost pranked them on the phone, I think, because they're like, what, you know, you're gonna, because it was, you know, just such a nice place. And so then we showed up, especially then once they seen us, I'm like, I looked just like this, like goofy little white guy with long hair, and it's my wife, and he's like, wait, you're gonna buy this place? Are you crazy? And I'm like, I'm dead serious, you know. I have a, you know, and then for the we looked at it and we're like, yeah, we like it a lot. And so then for like 3 weeks later, whatever the auction was, and you had to bring, I think it was like a $50,000 check to even get in, because they just didn't want a bunch of people off the streets coming in trying to see it, because it was just such a big event.
Yeah.
So then I got in there, and I was bidding against like a bunch of it's like a church, and then there was like some other people that wanted to turn it into like some like community center, and then other old folks. It was like all these people that had other ideas,
like businesses and stuff.
Yeah, turn it into something that it actually wasn't.
Okay.
And I don't know, luckily I ended up going much higher than I even said I would, because it just got to a point, and I kind of compare it to some of the moments I've been in with the basketball stuff, where you get to a point where, you know, you got to make a choice, and you know, it's like one of those things where, you know, you only get so many opportunities in life to take a risk, and I felt like it was a huge risk, but it was like a calculated good risk.
High risk, high reward.
Exactly, and it was like, it wasn't like I was doing something out of pocket. Like I'd already built up a clientele. I had other, you know, outlets, and I felt like, you know, I can do so many different things once I get this, like I have, and it was just one of those things. It wasn't like I was just taking some crazy gamble, you know. It was way higher than I could even afford. I just basically just went all in. But I was just thinking, if I'm ever gonna take a chance on something, this is it. And if I go down, I'm gonna go down swinging, at least, because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. You know, like it would have been something, I would have just been a mess, because I just knew it was never gonna present itself again. It was like too good to be true as it was. And so I went I'm talking 100-some thousand, way above what I could even swing, and I was begging, borrowing, stealing. But you know, I ended up making it work real quick, and it worked out really good, and I've been able to win different things, you know what I mean? It all took care of it, you know. And so it was one of those things where my advice to anybody would be like, hey, you know, take a risk. Don't be scared. Don't just be set with what you're doing. You know, take chance. You know, as long as it's not some crazy thing. You know, it was a very good risk that I took. But,
let's talk about your first $100,000 3-point contest. I said it in the intro. I know it was in Pennsylvania. You know, first of all, how did you even you know, come to find out about it?
Yeah, so the first one, it was crazy, man. I was just hanging out one night, and I always try to keep up on things and, you know, check my different messages I get in the evening, you know, just keep up on social media stuff. And still don't even have a great following, but some random guy sent me a message, and I think what it said, I have it, saved it and everything, and I've been in contact with him since, but I think it said something like, "This is your chance," or something. And then it just had a picture of, like, you know, one of their flyer type things that they had floating around the internet, whatever, and it said, "The 3-point open, $100,000 grand prize winner, you know, $1,000 entry fee." All this, I'm looking at it, I'm like, what? I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And you know, he was just a random guy that from some of my world records was following me, whatever, and he just knew I was a really good shooter, and whatever, and so I just sent him, thanks, you know, I'm on this immediately, whatever. And so then it was in the evening, so late at night. So the next day, you know, late morning, early afternoon, I, you know, sending them messages, calling, trying to get a hold of these people, and the guy was like, "Yeah, I can talk to you later on." And I remember I went out to dinner with my family. We were at the Olive Garden, and the guy called me back then. I had to step out of the, you know, I ended up being on the phone with him for 20, 30 minutes. You know, it was like because I had like a long list of questions and I was like, I was actually really nervous that it was like a setup, like, because you had to like send them the money and there was no way it was protected. It was like really crazy. Wow. But then I ended up, after a conversation, it kind of eased me a little bit, and I started looking all that day, and the next day I was looking on the internet, scouring different things. They had a couple people that had a lot of followers that were actually advertising it, so I started to feel a little more comfortable about it. And my dad was like, "Shit, man, you win this thing. Nobody's beating you." And I was like, "Listen, it's not that simple." We ended up he threw in on it. We split it like 50-50. And I just said, "Look, I'll break you off if I win it, whatever, something." And then he actually was like, "No." Once I did win it, he was like, "No, keep." And I still ended up giving him, I think, $1,500 or something, you know, something. So he basically made, you know, $1,000. He was like almost forcing me not to give it back to him because he was, you know, really happy about it, whatever. So, but anyways, at the time I was questioning it, and I had it like, just like you, like I asked him, I was trying to like get down to like what the rules were and the specifics and all the details. So I thought, man, this, because when the dude told me, it was like the event was the 4th of July weekend, and it was like into June. It was like, I don't know, I'd have to look at the date, like June 9th or something. It was like crunch time. So once I figured it out, then I just tried to practice for a couple weeks. I didn't have much time, and it was pretty straightforward. It was like similar to your last one. It was just, you're doing the 5 racks.
Yeah.
And then the last ball is the money ball, and you pick a money rack.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward, but still you had to, it wasn't like some of these guys, like I started to look up the stuff. They had footage of these guys practicing for like months, leading up to it, all these videos, and they were promoting it. And I was like wondering, how the hell did this slip past me? Like, because if it weren't for this one guy sending me this thing, I never would have known about it. And it like changed my life and everything. It was just crazy. But luckily, like I've told you off camera before, I shoot so much and stuff that I'm able to do something like that.
Ready.
Like, it's like I wasn't doing that exact specific thing, but I was shooting so much that I transitioned into it pretty smoothly, and I, tried to do what I could for that 2-week span, and just, whatever, and that was it. It was like, it's not like nobody was shooting as much as me. I just wasn't doing that specific thing.
Right. Yeah.
So
let's talk about the Gilbert Arenas 3-point contest, because he's more popular. I'm pretty sure more people know about that. And you told me the story off camera, but share with me again as far as. I know you were on vacation, when you found out. Can you share that story?
That was crazy too. It was kind of similar to the other one. Like, as far as that's what's really weird about it. And this guy I've been in touch with since. I posted this. It was really weird because I did a video. It was actually, because you said my 8th world record. I guess it's not actually official yet because I still, for whatever reason, haven't sent the paperwork in. But it is. I followed all the criteria. But anyways, I did it back right before Gilbert's thing. I did a thing with Mr. Bearded Dragon. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's got a big social media following, and we connected, and he came. He's from like 4 hours away, so he drove in for the day, and we did a number of videos. But my idea was, hey, look, I'll break a world record with you being a part of it, and we'll use your platform to get it out, and it'll reach a bigger audience. And it did. It ended up being the stuff that he and I did together. Ended up being his most, even though he's got more than 1 million followers, it ended up being his biggest stuff he's ever done. A few of the videos that we did together, he had like 40-50 million views collectively. It was like crazy. So I did the most free throws in 30 seconds, and I made 35 out of 35 with him, and that video took off. So he was kind of just being cool and giving me some advice. He was like, look, you got to start posting more, you got to do this, that, and he was giving me some little tips. I jotted it down, my wife and I was on the phone with him a couple times. And so I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna follow what he does and just try to give it a go, and try to, whatever. So I was doing that, and I ended up leaving for vacation with my family, and I was in Florida, and I posted this video from this. I had won this Red Bull competition in the summer, and he was telling me to go back on stuff and repost things and post things, whatever. And I had won this contest sponsored by Red Bull, and they sent me out to California, my wife and I spent the day with Lethal Shooter. Everybody knows who he is, whatever. And so I had a bunch of different footage from that I had, and I still have footage I haven't used from it. Like, it was just him, like, it was just a simple video of him throwing me, passing on the wing, and I just hitting some NBA threes on the wing, nothing special. And but as you know, I was getting all kinds of hate from every angle, no matter what I did. So I posted this video, and I had like probably 100 comments after I posted it, like 2 hours, and it was like a bunch of you, whatever. And so I'm like looking at it, and I'm just like reading these things, all these people like cutting me up. I'm like, these people are so stupid, these assholes, man. I'm just thinking in my head, I don't even know why I'm looking at this. But because a lot of times I don't. And I was just sitting there, and it was because we were on vacation. My wife and my son were in bed, and I was having trouble because I usually stay up later, and I was just looking at it, just burning a few minutes before I went to bed. And sure enough, this guy put a comment, and he's like, you should do Gil's Arena shootout for $100,000. And again, just like the other time, I'm looking at it, I'm like, what the hell? Because it's mixed in with all these like crazy comments. And I clicking on it, immediately, I'm into action. It was just like almost like deja vu with the other one. I'm typing all this stuff, and look, I'm like, man, this thing might be real. And the weirdest thing about it is Gilbert Arenas was one of the few people that were like, when I set a few of my world records, he was cool and just reached out to me. We didn't know each other at all. And he sent me like a few DMs, and so I looked back on it. He was like, good shit, send me fire emojis. And he even went on like a few different videos that I had over a course of a few years randomly, and would just just like, like comment on it, just being cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And we were back and forth. Like I sent a few things to him, and he responded. It was really random, weird stuff. I didn't know him really well, but we exchanged messages, and he always got right back to me, and I always got right back to him.
Yeah.
Just kind of just being cool, whatever. And in the meantime, he didn't even have a podcast or nothing at this time.
Okay.
He kind of, I think, he started doing like these little interviews on his couch, and then it grew to what it is now, and bigger and everything. Like hopefully, like yours will. So, but so I immediately sent him a message, and he got back to me right away.
Oh, okay.
And we went back and forth on a number of messages, and he was like, hey, it's actually kind of set. You really aren't even, but let me talk to some people, for the qualifying stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, it was like probably midnight where I was in Florida, but maybe 9 o'clock California time where he was. But he was like, yeah, it's not tomorrow, but that next day in the morning. How the hell are you going to do it? Like type of thing. And I was like, I don't know, because I was on vacation. So, but it was really similar because just some random guy I'd never met, and so then I just talked to my wife, and at first I think she thought it was crazy. She's like, we're on vacation. What are you talking about? You don't even know if you can get in this thing. So basically I left vacation a couple days early, and I had to spend $500-600 on a flight, whatever. But I just thought it was kind of just like the house. It was a calculated risk. It was like, look, the worst thing that can happen is I'll fly to California and they won't let me do it. And then I'll just fly back to Michigan and whatever. I'll go on with my life. But again, it was like, if I don't do this, how could I ever live with myself? Because I'm too good of a shooter. I got to at least take a chance and try to force my way in. And that was kind of what I thought, because Gilbert couldn't give me a straight answer, even though we were going back and forth. Because it was his thing, but he wasn't in charge. And it just ended open-ended. I just said, and I kind of just, the last message I sent, go back and look at it, I was like, look, I'm booking my flight right now.
Okay.
I'll be there. Just do whatever you can. Try to get me in this thing. I want to shoot. I'll do whatever I can to get in this, type of thing.
When you got there, how did it come about that you were able to, participate in it?
Yeah, luckily I had a really good friend of mine that grew up with me in Toledo, and he was living in Long Beach.
Okay.
And so it wasn't too far out of the way. He came and did me a side, like just at the drop of a dime, came and picked me up from the airport.
Okay.
And I got to his house, had just a little time to crack, because I ended up flying out that next night, and it was like a red eye, and I was all shit. I was like all out of sorts. On the flight, I like almost passed out because it was crazy. And then I was really tired, so I crashed for a couple hours. He drove me straight to the thing. It was like an hour from his house, and we got there and just tried to warm up real quick. And I was like on very little sleep. But when I got there, they were like, "Wait, you're not on the list, Reverend." I was like, "Listen, I was talking to Gilbert back and forth. I met you. Got to tell I came all the way from Florida. They thought I was crazy. They're like, you just got here off a plane from Florida? I was like, yes, I just got off the plane, slept a couple hours. I'm here to shoot. Like, I'll do anything to get in there and shoot. Yeah. And, it took a little while, like, 5-10 minutes. They came back and they're like, yeah, Gilbert said he knows you, whatever. And he said, they gave me all this paperwork I had to fill out, whatever. And they're like, we're going to set you, there's a group that's finishing up now. Because they were bringing people in like groups of like 20, 30 people for the qualifying. Like there was like a group at 8, another group at 11, another group at 2, and they were taking like little breaks and different things. So I came in and I had a few minutes to warm up, and then they mixed me with this group and they made a big announcement. It's almost like being at like a camp, like a kid, like they had us all huddle up. All right, this is what we're doing. This is the rules, whatever. We've had X amount of shooters. If you get to 17 or 18, you're going to have a really good chance. If you don't, it's going to be up in the air. We don't know exactly how. That was the crazy part. They're like, we think we're going to take about probably 10 or so, but we don't know. They ended up only taking 5 people. It was like crazy.
Wow.
So like, and the highest score when I went to shoot, I think was 16. So they were saying, you get 17, we got another group coming in after you. Most likely we can't guarantee anything, And I think I made 19 out of 25.
Okay.
Which I thought I was really happy about, because I barely got to warm up. I was a little asleep. I just flew. It was, I never even touched these basketballs that they had. It was college 3-pointers. Okay. And whatever. So, and they were going crazy. They couldn't believe it. Because they didn't. I don't think any of them knew who I was.
They didn't know.
Yeah, and it was like they were all over me, interviewing me, whatever. And they were like, "You got the highest thing out of all the people," So, but yeah, it was. And when I look back on it, it was one of those things where I think there may have been more good shooters in the 3-point open, but there were still a lot of really good shooters in Gilbert. Because Gilbert's thing, it was very similar. Like the qualifying thing was like 100 some people, I think, and they narrowed it down to the 5 people advanced. But then everybody else was just in it, like an automatic bid. Like all the NBA guys, all the everything else. But this one, the 3-point open, it was like you could automatically get in it, but you had to pay $1,000. So it was like the way I look at it, and I've always told people is, if you are willing to pay $1,000 to shoot a basketball, you got to be pretty good at shooting a basketball, because there's not a lot of people that will pay $1,000, even though the prize was $100,000, because you got to have confidence in yourself, and I mean, it's just a lot. You got to have $1,000 too, and be willing to,
I have trouble getting people to pay $100.
Exactly.
To get them
so there was a lot of people that didn't pay. They had a thing where they and that one where they were doing where they had some different sponsors where you could send in footage. So like I could send in footage of me shooting.
Okay.
And then let's say that you were one of the sponsors, you could almost like pick me, and then I had to split profit with you, type of thing. They had a bunch of people that were doing that. So like, like if some, but I just thought to myself, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I'm all in on it. I'm not gonna chintz. I'm not. My dad was like, I'll pay for something, whatever, in case you get right.
So did you have to pay $1,000?
Yeah, so I paid $1,000, and there were some other people, some of the big social media people. I think either they definitely paid a cut rate because they were putting up posts. If you got like 500,000 followers and you're putting it up, whatever and stuff. But there were still some people that weren't that good in it. I'm not saying there weren't, like there was I think 108 people that were in it or something. Okay. And they did like a qualifying round where everybody shot twice, and the top 64 went into a single elimination bracket, just like an NCAA bracket. Okay. So that was crazy because you're just every round you can be eliminated. You know what I mean? It just goes down. You never know. Some guy could be hot, someone could not. It was very pressure-filled, cameras everywhere. They were doing a live stream thing, and it was crazy. But I think that with that one, though, like I said, there were some really good shooters, like from all over the country that were in it. And it narrowed down. It was just some damn good shooters. Like when you got down to, the even 32, it was like really, there was very few people that were in it that weren't capable of like making 20 out of the 25 basketballs. It was like legit. And but the Gilbert thing though, there were some damn good shooters, but that one only had like, well, it started off with 100-some people for the qualifying, but then it was narrowed. I think it was like maybe 24, 25 people, something like that. But there were some really good. I mean, you've seen it. There were some people that put up some really good numbers. Because I always think too, when you get in these things, sometimes someone who you least expect might just surprise you. Like a guy who's a good shooter and he just shoots, like the guy who in the Gilbert Arenas thing who, pushed me to the edge. I'm not saying he was a really good shooter. I don't think he was the second best shooter next to me. Because like he barely squeaked through. He got into a shoot off in the first round with Rashad McCants, and he barely advanced. And then and he was like barely advanced the next couple rounds. He was like, just squeaking his way through, and then he just exploded. And and that's sometimes how it is.
I won't get into like the details of when you won and things like that, because it's on YouTube. So you guys make sure you check that out. So on a smaller scale, I want to talk about my 3-point contest that's coming up. August 31st. We're gonna be at Cass Tech High School. We're gonna start at noon. So we're doing the kids first. We're doing the adults at 1. We're gonna have a dunk contest, and also we're gonna conclude with the kids one-on-one tournament. You won my second annual 3-point contest and the championship pretty comfortably. I think you had over 30 points. Talk to me about, are you excited about this next one that's coming up in about a week?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited, man. Yeah, I don't take it for granted, and I wouldn't say comfortably. I think maybe the final score maybe made it look comfortably. I wasn't comfortable. I was really, like, even these things, I always tell people I'm nervous as hell, but I just try my best to relax, take deep breaths, channel it, and just focus, and I always just try to worry about myself and just try to do the best I can, and I try not to focus on how good or bad somebody else is doing. I just try to do, because I know that if I shoot as good as I can, it's going to be really difficult for anybody to beat me. And and I just try to believe in myself, and I know anything can happen. I'm not perfect. I've lost different things. I've won a lot, but it's one of those things. But yeah, I'm really excited because I don't think I could have won the 3-point open for 100,000 or Gills Arena for 100,000 if I didn't do ones like this. Because it kind of seasons you. Just like I said, when I was younger, I went into these gyms in the inner city, got pressured, I lost, I turned the ball over, blew games, and I learned. Then pretty soon I was the one getting through the pressure, winning the games, doing the good things, scoring the points, getting the assists, whatever. And it's the same type of thing, you know, you learn from your mistakes, and the more you can do something, the better you get at it. Like the more you can be in it, like you can't, no matter how much I shoot on my own, I can't replicate your thing. I can't replicate, because even if it was for free, it's still me putting, you know, I'm competitive. I want to win. It's my reputation. It's you know, and there's no guarantees, and you never know what's going to actually happen. Anybody's capable of having a bad round. Anybody's capable of having a good round, and you know, it's one of those things. Getting out and doing it, it prepares you for other ones and everything. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I want to try to do my best and just
like I told you off camera. You know, we talked about it. You know, when I announced my 3-point contest, a lot of people contact me and they ask me, you know, are you going to be in it? And they figure if you're going to be in it, they don't even want to pay their money because they assume automatically that you're going to win. You know, what would you say to those people, just briefly, like what would you say to those people that kind of intimidated by you or other people? Well,
thanks for the respect, I guess, you know. No, I don't know. I think that I understand, because it's like one of those things where if you don't put a whole lot of time and effort, and you're just kind of like a guy who plays here and there, shoots here and there,
but it's people that shoot it though, that can really shoot it, and they still.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can see where it comes from, but it's one of those things. You know, anything can happen. You know, I don't want to like pump confidence into these people.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. You know, I don't know what to say. It's one of those things where I don't think let's put it like this. I don't think there's a whole lot of things that I would pay money to compete and do. This is what I do. You know, so that's why I'm doing. But I don't know if a lot of people do it quite the way I do, and as often, and as you know, and take it as serious, and so, you know, whatever. I don't know. It's one of those things, but you know, I don't know. Anything can happen. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm not like a robot. I'm a human being, and I just try to practice a lot, and I try to pay attention to the details. And I think I've figured out. I always say this too. I've figured out a way to make it fun and exciting, and to improve. Like different people, you know, I try not to follow what most people do. You know, just like my form. You know, it's like most people, you can, like when you look up basketball videos and different things all over social media platforms, people are doing a lot of the same similar stuff. I'm kind of like a little bit
like eccentric,
off.
A little different.
Exactly, and I've just always, I'm not saying I don't do some of that stuff and I don't copy off, but you know, it's one of those things where I just try to do my own thing and I do what works for me. And I think if more people figured out what worked for them and tried to, and actually were willing to try different things and not do exactly what everybody's doing, you know, because sometimes if you venture off and you try different things, maybe it doesn't work, but then sometimes things do work. And what happens, what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. And I think if more people had that mindset, not only with shooting, but just with basketball and other things in life, I think, you know, and we're willing to take risk and try things, and you know, everybody wants to copy off what everybody else does, and they want to do the same thing. You know, they see Steph Curry's doing this, or they see this trainer, or this guy's got a bunch of followers, he's saying to do this. You know, like, you don't, you know, do your own thing. Figure out what works for you, and that's what I think I've done best. I've figured out what works for me and what I'm comfortable with, and you know, and I've been able to I've continued to improve as good as, you know, as with all my accomplishments. Like my private shooting stuff that I do on my own on a daily basis, I'm shooting better than I was. You know, at your last competition, whatever. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything. You still got to get out, and it doesn't mean that I could shoot worse. I could shoot better when I go to do it live. But you know, I'm finding ways to improve and do better at what I do, and that's probably when I've shot my best, is on my own. Like, you know, if I had some of that on tape, it'd be unbelievable. You know. So
let's talk about. I want to talk about your wife. You know, I know she's very supportive of you. You know, you're embracing each other. You're crying together. You know, when you win in these 3-point contests, she's rebounding for you. Just briefly talk to me about, you know, your relationship with your wife and how she's, you know, supporting you in these 3-point contests.
Yeah, she's been awesome through it all. She's been very supportive, and you know, like I said with that thing when I left town at the drop of a hat on for the Gills Arena, she was like, wait, but then once we talked about it, you know, we kind of, because I was on the fence about it a little bit, but I was like, man, I can't pass this. And she was like, you know, you're right.
She was understanding.
It's like if you get there and you tell, like, you apply pressure, like, hey, I came here from Florida. How are they going to deny you from trying? And you know, I mean, if this is supposed to be this big thing with all these superstars, how are they going to deny you from trying to qualify? You know, like type of thing. And so she, you know, stuff like that, and Yeah, she always helps me. You know, like if I'm going to practice for a world record, you know, on vacation she'll help me a lot because I don't have access to rebounding machines, different things to get me a lot of shots up. And those moments are crucial because I don't take a break. You know, if I go out of town or for a basketball thing or a vacation, I try not to miss a beat. I may not be shooting the same amount of shots at the same distance, but I'm still getting up a lot of shots. She's helping me. She's, you know, my son helps me, my dad, my mom.
The whole family affair.
Yeah, that type. I got my friend Frank.
Yeah.
Just, you know, anything I can do to have people retrieve basketballs or help keep time, tally up points, help the, you know, whatever it is. I've done so many things, things that require a rebound or require passes, different things, you know, and it just helps move along. And yeah, my wife's been awesome though. She's, you know, it's one of those things. We have 2 kids, a third on the way, and you know, our relationship is far from perfect, but I love her and nothing would ever separate me from her. I got a lot of respect for her. And maybe I don't say that all the time, but it's one of those things. It's sticking it out, you know, like our relationship isn't perfect. There's ups and downs just like anybody else. But, you know, I think if I'm going to do it with anybody, it's with her because, you know, she's been in my corner with all this stuff and she's helped me anytime I needed it. And so, yeah, definitely. I mean, you've met my wife. She's great.
She's
so
definitely,
you know.
she's definitely great.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, you know, you mentioned earlier that you met Lethal Shooter. You know, one of my closest friends, he thinks actually that Lethal Shooter is a better shooter than Steph Curry. You know, he's acrobatic. He's shooting on the ground. He's shooting against roadblocks. He's doing all these different things. I don't want you to compare the two, but just what are your thoughts on, you know, Lethal Shooter as a shooter?
No, I think he's a really good shooter. I would say he himself, I've seen on a number of times where he says Steph Curry is better than him.
Okay.
See, whereas like me, I wouldn't say that because I just. I'm not cocky by any means. I don't go around bragging. You have
confidence in yourself.
But I just believe in myself, and I know what I've done, and maybe what I don't know what he. See, you never know what someone does away from the camera, and I'm not saying what he does is bad.
Yeah.
But maybe what he does doesn't give him the belief that he can outshoot him, or maybe he just thinks that he shouldn't say that because he's trying to. Like the impression I got when I met him was that he's not a bad guy. I think that his number one concern is protecting his image.
His brand, his image.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I understand. I mean, that's whatever.
That's a lot of people when they have that many followers.
Exactly. And there's no question. I think a lot of his stuff is extremely edited, his videos. But even if they are edited, which, I mean, they are, there's no question. But I think that there's no, you can't question that he's a really good shooter.
I watched some of his highlights in college, and I mean, he was, you know, he can shoot pretty good.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, if I was his size, man, I'll tell you what, man, I wouldn't be doing it.
He about what, 6?
I'd be,
Is he about 6'5", 6'6", something like that?
Yeah, at least. Yeah, but I'm just saying with that shoot, it's weird.
Yeah.
Maybe he just missed the boat or got caught a bad break. I don't know. I think he had an injury. But
I think he did.
I think it's just weird that he didn't get, you know, being that size and everything and playing at a high level and different things.
Yeah.
That he didn't, you know, he played overseas, different things, but that he didn't get a shot in the league. It's much more of a shooting league now. But boy, if I was that tall, I'd be the MVP in the NBA. I'd tell you that. But anyways, yeah, I would say if you're going to ask me, I think I'm the best shooter. But if I'm going to pick, I'd say Steph Curry over Lethal Shooter. But
I want to wait. Let me cut you off because I want to get into. I'm going to ask you about that, but first, let's talk about Steph Curry. You know, a lot of people, you know, with the GOAT debate, they debate about Jordan and LeBron. You know, a lot of people have Jordan, a lot of people have LeBron, but it's no debate as far as who the greatest shooter is. Everybody says Steph Curry. Just not comparing, but just as far as his playing and his shooting, what do you think about Steph Curry?
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of Steph. Like that's why when people ask me, I say, yeah, I'm better. You know, I mean, Steph Curry is my favorite player. I mean, Michael Jordan was my favorite player when I was a kid growing up, and then my favorite player was Steve Nash for a long time. I always just liked him as a point guard and stuff. And but yeah, I mean, I like Steph Curry a lot, but I just shoot so much that it's one of those things where I just believe in myself. It's not. I don't want it to come off cocky, but I see what I do, you know, on my own on a daily basis. And I shoot so good that in order to actually outshoot me, like on a daily basis, you would almost have to be like a robot. Like I shoot that good. I'm not kidding. Like on the stuff that I do. And I mean, the only way Steph Curry would be able to beat me, he'd have to like step into my gym and like basically shoot like higher than 99% of his shots that would have to go in the hoop, you know? It's almost like not even humanly possible. But I can see where like people would be like, no, Steph Curry's a better shooter because he's shooting against NBA players in a game.
Yeah.
But I always was really good at shooting in a game. Like the stuff that he did in the Olympics, you know, at the end of that game, I would like routinely do that in a normal game. That wasn't like, that was like what I did. Like just playing in a game. That wasn't like out of the ordinary. Like I did that. You know, I wasn't playing against
that
countries and that. I played against really good competition my whole life, and I've won all kinds of adult leagues and 3-on-3s and against pros and college players and different. You know, I've beat all kinds. You know, I don't. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about. We got to talk about TNT. You know, a lot of people, they've seen the videos. Before we get into that, though, how did it even come about that you were, you know, invited to go on TNT with Ernie, Shaq, Barkley, and Kenny Smith?
Yeah, they sent me a thing because my one world record just took off and it had millions. You know,
which one was that?
30, 40 million views. It was the most NBA three-pointers in 1 minute, and I made like 31 in a row.
Okay.
But, yeah, so they, you know, and it just took off. It actually wasn't even, as weird as it sounds, it wasn't like that good. Like I've been able to beat it. Like I could, like if we had a hoop right here, I'd be able to beat it. Maybe not the first try, but if you gave me like 3 or 4 tries, I'd beat it. Boom.
Yeah.
I'd make 32, 33. So it wasn't like it was like amazing,
so crazy,
but it just took, you know, that's how the internet is. It just took off and it was really popular. And then, so they just sent me a thing and invited me on the show. But it was weird, just the whole vibe of it, like real secret. They wouldn't tell me what I was doing. I had no way to prepare for it. I didn't know what I was, you know, and then I got there.
When they invited you on the show, did they tell you like what exactly was going to happen? Was it just...
No, that's what I mean. They wouldn't give me a straight answer. And I was on the phone and on emails and messages. And they're like, oh, we're just going to have fun. We'll figure out something, whatever. And I'm like, well, I'd like to know what I'm doing, you know, so I can try to prepare something, whatever. But then they... You know, and then we were going to fly out, and then my wife, you know, they wanted us to like send them the information on when I'd like to fly out and whatever, and they were going to set me in a room, whatever, you know.
Okay.
Same thing, because I had won other things prior to that where I'd been put up, and it was, and I swear to you, not just because it was not only the worst I'd been treated, but it was the worst accommodations for any, because I've won so many things. Like I said, I've won, I don't even know, I'd say probably about 10 different trips where I got flights, room and board, tickets to events.
So the hotel you were at,
the hotel was fine, but like they wouldn't pay for my wife's flight, which was mind-boggling because like we sent them the information with my wife, whatever, and they're like, oh no, we're not going to pay for her. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't have got this world record without my wife handing me the basketball.
Yeah.
Like I thought they were going to have me come on and try to like almost like replicate it. I was all confused. Okay. Like I thought, you know, I was like, well, she's the one that knows how to get the balls off the rack and hand them me in rhythm. That's a big part of it. And whatever, so then we just ended up like, well, fuck it. I was like, we'll just pay for her then, I guess. This is like a $1 billion thing. We had to, you know, it was just, the whole thing was just bizarre, you know, like that part of it. Then we got there, and they were cool at first, but then you just kind of got this impression that they thought that they were better than us, sort of. That's like kind of like how my wife and I viewed it. Like they were nice, but it was kind of like almost like they never were like, hey, congratulations or nothing like that. You know, it was like, I don't know.
Treated you really.
Yeah, and it wasn't like they were being assholes, but they were just kind of, they were, everything they did was they were trying to be a joke, but I just kind of got this vibe that it was, there just wasn't like a respect that they had for us.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And like they were joking around, like, oh, you're from Michigan. Oh yeah, did they play basketball there and all this? And I was like, well, yeah, actually, I used to play basketball. I was a really good player. You know, like I think they just kind of thought I was just some guy who stood in a spot and got lucky and hit a bunch of shots. And I was trying to tell them, I was like, no, look, I can do this like on the spot. This wasn't like a fluke thing where I got lucky. Like I routinely do this stuff, you know, like I just recorded it and followed the criteria, and this is what happened, you know. And you know, and then I shot and I kept hitting the ceiling, and then we agreed that we'd shoot closer. And I've repeated this story so many times. And then you know, then I had to sit there for 45 minutes while they were doing all the other recording, and then it came up, and then I basically came up there ice cold. And then they kind of flipped the script with all the cameras on. I should have just walked off the set or just said I wasn't doing it. And I kind of tried to say that, but they were like laughing about it and joking, you know, and it just turned out to be what it was. And I mean, if I went out there again, I don't think I could make the shots because it was just, you had to shoot it from where I was standing just like a little bit flat. And it kind of was just throwing me for a loop. It was just weird. I had to make an adjustment. And like I shoot so much that it's hard for me to do that unless I practiced to do that.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And it was on the spot, and it was like it wasn't like I wasn't even nervous at all. I was more so like
Just confused,
pissed and confused because it was like, wait, what the hell? We agreed to shoot free throws. Now I'm shooting a three. You know?
Yeah.
It was crazy. You know, but it was partially my fault. I should have just stood up for myself and just, you know.
No matter what you would have did, you would have got.
Yeah, because I knew I would have took heat for that.
Yeah.
And it went basically as the worst it could have, you know. But whatever.
I mean, you missed 2 shots. You know, I don't understand why it was.
Yeah, and no matter what I did, then after that I broke all these other world records, won all these events, and won $100,000 until I won Gil's Arena. There's still some people that give me a hard time, you know, on messages I
want to get to that now.
But I kind of escaped it a little bit.
Yeah, I want to get to that now, the criticism. You know, when I was doing research on you for this, I mean, I'm just looking through comments like you said you was doing.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. I never seen all of that, you know, all of the hatred, all of the hating. You know, they making fun of your form. They saying you can't play basketball.
Yeah.
How do you deal with all of this? You know, you got so much criticism.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot from all over the world. You know, how do you?
Well, I think you just you get to a point where a lot of it I don't even pay attention to, but you just gotta kind of just take it with a grain of salt and just figure these people gotta be. I mean, the people who are sending the negativity, you know, 9 out of 10 times they gotta be just a complete idiot. You know, because it's one of those things. If you play basketball and you've seen the things that I do, you don't have to love me, but I think it would be very difficult to actually hate what I've been able to achieve just from the perspective, like, I mean, geez, this guy, look at all this shit he's done. It's like, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to be cocky, but it's just, you know, you don't have to love me, but man, if you hate me, you got some issues. That's just my opinion. You know, because there's a lot of people that I don't love, but I also don't hate them.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
I mean, it's just one of those things, like, so yeah, I don't know. I think at times I had a hard time with it because it's like, you know, I've done this my whole life. I've had nothing but success as a player and a shooter and different things. And, you know, most of these people, like anybody who knows me never would ever say anything like that about me. Like if you actually know me and played with or against me or competed with or against me, you know, like I'm not even like, I don't ever talk shit or nothing. I just keep to myself and I just try to do my best and, you know, whatever. So it's sad, but that's the world.
Tell me, you know, immediately after that happened, you know, how were you feeling? You know, I know you said, you know, you lost your manager and things like that. How were you feeling, like, you know, after, you know, TNT, after that happened, after that situation?
Yeah, it was tough, man. I went through I lost a lot of opportunities and possible sponsorships. And I was supposed to be on a couple of shows and the Sports Illustrated thing, they did it, but they kind of brushed it under the rug. And my manager and all, it just, basically, it was almost like a guy who loses his job and he breaks up with his wife and all this, and he loses his house. It was like kind of like that in my own way. But I just, you know, it was tough, but I think it drove me in a way that I'd never been driven before, like as far as like the basketball and the shooting stuff. Like I kind of just took it to another level because soon after that COVID hit and I was like trapped in my house and I had the court and I just started like reaching new heights and just pushing my body. And I was smart about it, but I just started pushing myself to further than I'd ever pushed myself and started, you know, and it just kind of just created like this sort of like fire inside of me that like I don't think could ever be put out because like I just went through, I mean, I think other people go through it, but I went through like I'm talking like for a stint of some years where I couldn't wake up in the morning without getting some crazy messages and comments from people. And I wasn't even really posting a lot. People were like basically seeking me out to like just talk shit to me.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? And a lot of it you can ignore it, but at the same time you got to kind of see it and you got to like,
it's hard.
It was just crazy and just knowing how much love I had for basketball and how much effort I'd put forth. And like everything that I've been able to accomplish. And it was like, seemed like, again, until the Gil's Arena, no matter what I did, I kind of got to a point where I was like, maybe I'll just never escape it, but it is what it is. I know the truth of how good I am and whatever. But I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to enter that so bad, because I thought the respect that he had as a player and the street credibility he had and everything and his show and everything, like if I was able to get out there and beat all these NBA guys, like I just thought this might be
Beat the time.
Yeah, and it honestly overnight, it was one of those things where it flipped from, like, if I were to post a video or whatever, it went from, I'd say, 25% positive, 75% negative. It almost did like a complete flip.
Oh, okay.
75% positive, 25% negative.
Okay.
You know, like, boom, just like that.
That's good.
And I had all kinds of people reaching out to me, you know, congratulating. And I even had a number of people that reached out to me and said, and like, basically saying that they were wrong about me and they apologized. They had put comments about me and that's different things, and they're sorry and they can't believe how, you know, how dedicated I stayed after that. And like a lot of people, like inspirational type of messages, like, man, I can't believe everything you went through, that you still, you know, stuck to it and kept working hard.
Overcame all of that
and like,
adversity
you know,
and
kept working and not even knowing that there was really an end point or anything that would ever get me out of it, because I did like some things that nobody's ever done, and it basically just seemed like no matter what I did, it buried me even further and further. So, but yeah, it's nice. It was nice to kind of get out of it and take a deep breath, and it was really cool. And you know, I don't think people need to love me or kiss my butt or anything like that, but you can at least, you know, kind of just respect my journey of what I've done and been able to accomplish, you know.
And acknowledge what all of the accomplishments that you've done.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to transition to the USA Olympics. So they barely beat France in the championship game, and they also barely beat Serbia in the semifinals. LeBron James was the MVP. Curry was phenomenal the last 2 games. Do you think that LeBron should have been MVP, or do you think they should have gave it to Curry, Steph Curry?
I think Curry probably should have got it, because I think it's hard to say that they would have won those games without him. I think I thought there was a lot of points in those 2 games where, even though he didn't play well up to that point, I think where they were almost looked lost, and they were like depending on him. Like it looked like a lot of those guys were not only deferring to him, but they almost, like some of the best players in the NBA were almost like scared to shoot. They almost looked like they were like, man, I hope he bails us out type of thing. And so I don't think there was any question he should have been the MVP. But you know, Bron was more consistent throughout you know, all of the games, because if he wasn't playing as well as he was playing early on, you know, maybe they lose before that anyway. So, but that's just my opinion. I mean, but I mean, I think that the team, I don't know if they. I felt like when I think I watched all the games. I felt like they didn't really as much talent as they had. I thought it might have been outside of like the original Dream Team, maybe like the best team that they've ever had assembled, because they had such a collection of veteran players that, you know, with experience and all that. I didn't think they gelled as well as I thought they would have throughout it. It's tough though, because all the other countries know each other better, and I think they're all getting better, and the United States just kind of throws them together at the last moment and whatever. I think they should do something where they all try to get together
earlier,
or like not only earlier but more often. Like they should. Like I feel like right now they should be almost picking the team right now, and then you know they can't get.
It's hard though, because it's 4 years away. So
but I think they should start piecing it together now, like some of it, and trying to get the guys together. And even if there's guys that may not end up making the team, they just kind of be up front with them and tell them, hey, you may not be a part of this. You may. There may be guys that aren't here that may be here, and trying to get them together like a few different times throughout the year and flipping the bill. I mean, the money's not the fact. You know, they could, you know, during the off season, different off times, and just getting them because I think a lot of exactly, because that's a lot of what it is. I think, you know, when you're playing the unity, and like when you're on a team,
the chemistry,
all that helps.
That's
and when
important.
That's important. Some of that, and I was surprised. I thought they kind of struggled. I thought too. I'm sure he took a lot of criticism that Steve Kerr. I don't think he did the best job rotating the players, and like some of that stuff. I mean, like some of that stuff, like with the Jason Tatum and Joel Embiid, some of those guys, like. I mean, I don't know how you don't at least throw them in for a few minutes, especially because some of those games, they looked like they were having trouble generating offense. Like, hey, throw one of these guys in for a few minutes, and if it doesn't work, put them back out. I thought he kind of, I don't know, I just didn't think he did it. He kind of leaned really heavily on about those whatever guys. It was, 6 or 7 guys. And I don't know, it didn't mesh that. I mean, even though they won, I kind of think I thought the France game ended up closer than what it actually was, but I thought the Serbia one, I think they got pretty damn lucky. I think that if you could go back in time and they replayed the last 4 or 5 minutes of that game like 10 times, I think Serbia would win 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah.
I think they got really lucky. I think there was a few shots. I think James, Durant, and Curry all hit like a shot that I think wasn't even really a high percentage shot, and they hit them.
Right.
And I think if one of them didn't go in, they were in trouble. I mean, they got damn lucky. And I don't think Jokic played that well either.
He didn't play that great, but he played decent.
I think they snuck away with it, you know. Yeah. But they did win, so that's what's important.
So 2028, you know, a lot of people talking about, they're debating, you know, some people are saying that, you know, they think that some think they're going to lose, some think they're going to win. 2028, how do you see it playing out? They barely won this year.
Yeah.
How do you see 2028 playing?
I don't think their team will be as good because even if they have as much talent, I don't think they'll have as much veteran leadership and as much experience as some of those guys had. Yeah. If I had to pick a team, I'd pick them because I just think they're going to be the best, most talented team.
Okay.
But I don't think it's a shoo-in by any means. You know, I don't. Yeah. I could. Yeah, I would. I don't think by. You know, I think.
It's
some
gonna
other
be
teams.
Tough. It's going to be.
Yeah, I think like France will be back. I think Serbia will be back. You know, Greece. I think that Canada would probably be, if they got everybody to actually play and participate, would maybe be the next best team. Yeah. But you know, who else was in at the end? There was
Serbia, France, South Sudan is going to be pretty good, I think.
Yeah, they were the one that the USA beat.
Barely
in one of the games. Who's the other one that was in the Final Four though?
Germany.
Yeah, Germany. I mean, all them. I mean, those teams will all be as good, or if not better. And and then I think some of it too is those guys from the other countries. I think it means more to them.
Okay.
Because that's like you know, like if you asked like any of them guys on the United States basketball team if they would rather win an NBA championship or a gold medal, I think they would all choose. Because it's just I don't know. Whereas a gold medal is almost viewed as just as much.
Too much value into
the basket. It's just that's the one event in the Olympics where they don't. You know, I don't know. Like the United States people, not saying they don't want to win, but the real competition for them is in the NBA. You know, because it's like so lopsided
that's the best
sport.
Players for sure.
Yeah, it's like one of those weird things. You know, so I think that's part of it too. Like they're, you know, but I think it seems like they're trying to. The United States is taking it more and more serious. I guess we'll see. I wish they'd add some sort of shooting event, man. I wish they'd do the 3-point. I think they do it in all sort of countries, different leagues.
Yeah.
It's not like it's something that they don't do.
Yeah.
I think that'd be sweet.
Would be a good idea.
That'd be sweet if they did it and all that. You know, you represent the USA. That'd be really cool.
You would try to represent.
I would try my ass off. I don't know how you would do it, or if they did like, I don't know if they'd ever do it, but like if they would ever let there be some sort of competition to get to the NBA one and like have like compete in the NBA one, like a few people off the streets that earned their way to get there.
Yeah,
I think that'd be really cool.
I want to transition to the NBA. The current state of the NBA. You know, it's so many different rules. You know, they have the in-season tournament. You know, a lot of my friends, they're not as passionate about watching the NBA now as they were, you know, years ago. You know, what is your opinion on the current state of the NBA?
I mean, I don't like it as much as I used to, but I like it. I mean, I think it's, you know, I think there's a lot more skilled, talented, bigger, stronger, faster players, whatever. And it's just like anything; it evolves as time goes on. But I mean, I'm not like a huge fan, but I like it. I like to have it on in the background and watch the end of games, and then especially when it gets to the playoffs and different things. And you know, I watch it and I keep up with it. I know what's going on, but
let me ask you this. If I gave you, I wrote down a list of things that I would change if I was like the commissioner, or if I had the power about the NBA. If you could change one thing about the NBA, anything you can change, the time, the amount of games, you can change anything you want. If I gave you one NBA wish, what would you change?
That's a weird question. That's tough.
Because I don't like some of the rules, you know, that they have. You know, they switch. You know, if you get an offensive rebound, it's not 24 seconds. You know, they trying to speed up the game.
Yeah.
The game is softer. It's so many different rules that switch.
Yeah.
So if you could change
something off the top of my head, which is probably weird, is I think, as weird as it sounds, I think that I don't like the spacing and the format. I think it's too crowded, like how the corners cut in.
Oh, okay.
I think that if the court was just a little wider, like a couple feet each way.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think they should just keep that 3-point line. Like the corner is like 22.
Yeah.
Or maybe I think it's like 22 and a few inches. I think it should just be that around. I think the 3-point line actually is too far. And I think the game would be more exciting if it was just the international, like the international, the college, the WNBA, they all have the same line.
Yeah.
That same 22, whatever. It's the same as basically like within an inch of what the NBA corner one is. I think if you changed that and just made it, I think it would add some excitement. I think it's too difficult of a shot, the NBA one, and I think the reason they do it, I think what their thought process is that they're trying to keep, like, push it out so that it's a more difficult shot and tougher to make, but also that they're spacing out so it's not so cluttered.
Right.
But I think in my opinion, is like the opposite effect. I think you need to open the actual court, make it just a little wider, so there's more space. And then, I don't know, it's just that's one thing, just like a weird thing I've always thought, like, why the hell? Because even in the corner, it's so crammed, you can, like, their feet and stuff. And I think it changes the game, like when you're penetrating and kicking out and doing different things, the spacing. I think if it was a little wider, it would open it up a little more. I don't know. I just think it's too crowded.
Okay.
Like how it corners in,
So let me ask you your favorite NBA player, favorite NBA team, and why?
Like right now, I'd say probably the Curry and the Warriors, but I don't know what the hell they're doing. I was really surprised they let go of Thompson and all that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like they're gonna. I don't know that they'll necessarily let Curry go. Maybe they will in the near future.
They're not letting Curry go.
Because I think they could get like a king's ransom for him eventually. But I think right now they're going to try to go with what they have, and I think they may try to make some sort of a big move either before, during, or after, in the future, because I think they see the window and that I think they might need something else. But I do think I guess that's another complaint. I think it's always been like that with the sports, with not just the NBA, but I think there's only a few teams that really have a chance year in and year out,
Yeah. I think it's coming. It's becoming more teams now, but it's maybe a few that favorite to win the championship. So
I just like even last year, even though the Mavericks made it, I just didn't think they had much of a chance from the beginning even till the end. Even though they squeaked through, I thought they just kind of got lucky with the teams they drew and the path they had, and they earned it. They got there, but I just didn't. I think we talked briefly. I just didn't see even from the get-go. I thought for the Celtics to lose that, they would really have to blow it.
They would have had to choke to lose that for sure.
Because I felt like the Celtics weren't a shoo-in, but they kind of just got there and they didn't have to beat anybody that difficult.
Yeah.
And they'd been there for years, and so they have a lot of talent.
So I have 3 players. I want you to rank these players from 3, 2 to 1.
Oh, this will probably be fast, no matter who you say.
It's gonna be fast.
I'm saying with my answer.
Right now, they're 100%. So we got Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry. Who's third?
Just that order you said them, I'd put Kevin Durant, then LeBron James, and then Steph Curry.
So you put Kevin Durant
as the third best.
Third.
And then
LeBron
3, 2, 1 like that.
LeBron second.
Yeah.
And Steph Curry 1.
Yeah. That's
so right now you think Steph Curry is better than LeBron and KD?
Yeah, I think by far, but that's just my opinion. I'm not a fan of Kevin Durant or LeBron James at all. I don't hate them. I have respect for them. I think they're two of the greatest players ever, but I've never been a fan of either of them. I am a fan of Stephen Curry.
Yeah.
And I think the difference is I think most people would probably argue I think most people would put Curry ahead of Durant, but there may be some arguments there, and I think almost most people would put James first.
Yeah.
But, to me, is he a great player? Yeah, but I think that Stephen Curry, just like when you see in the Olympics, I think he just changes the whole game, even if he's not playing good, because just the way that you have to guard him, it's almost like having Tyreek Hill running down the sidelines. Even if he doesn't catch the pass, he's opening up the whole spacing of the. And I'm a shooter too, so it's like a biased opinion. But I think
speaking of shooters, though, let me ask you this: top 5 shooters of all time.
In the NBA?
In the NBA. No order, though. Just what's your top 5 shooters of all time?
I'd have to say Curry is one, even though we're not putting it in order. But then, I think Klay Thompson, Ray Allen.
Okay. Curry, we got Klay Thompson, Ray Allen. Need 2 more.
Reggie Miller, 1
more.
Oh, man, let me think of.
1 more shooter.
I'm sure I'm missing a ton of people, but I'm trying to think of who you would pinch into that.
Yeah.
It's maybe Damian Lillard, I guess I'll say, because I think he's a really good shooter.
Okay.
I think he's still got a lot to prove to actually, to to actually get into maybe that conversation, because maybe other people wouldn't say that. There's a lot of other guys too that I would like, guys like Steve Kerr, people like that were like, but that was kind of just their role and they weren't really expanded. Like actually, I almost want to backtrack on that and say and put Steve Nash in there. And
Steve Nash,
but he's right on that because Steve Nash, I was like his biggest fan, but I always felt like he did. My biggest gripe with him was that, as good of a shooter as he was, I felt like he didn't shoot enough. Yeah, it used to piss me off so bad when I'd watch, because like when you watched him, like he was such a good shooter, and he just wouldn't shoot it. Like he just passed too much. I'm like, quit fucking passing, man. You can like shoot the ball. You know, like you're such a good shooter, man. Yeah, but again, just opinion. There's so many good shooters, man. That's a tough one, but it's hard to argue, you know, with what Curry's been able like. Because it's not like he does it so many different ways, you know.
So let's do top 5 players ever.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, I
know you got Jordan in there.
Yeah, like as far as Jordan, he's just like to me, I don't even. Like if someone says anything to me besides Jordan, I don't even acknowledge it. I wouldn't even have a conversation with somebody who thought someone was better than Jordan. If you're entitled to your opinion, but I just wouldn't even have a conversation with you. I'm being serious, because it's not even like, to me, it's not even like a realistic opinion. It's not debatable. There's just nothing to talk about. It's we're like on two different. You know, it's like you're gay and I'm straight. Like I'm not. We have nothing in common. Where you know what I mean? So after Jordan, though, I think there's like a humongous debate like on where you could go with it.
Most people have a top 10. And
I don't know, man. I guess just right now, just for the sake of answering you, I'll just say in no particular order. I'd say like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Larry Bird. I don't know. That's just, but I don't know.
That comes to your mind when you...
Yeah, but like, it's tough. Like I never was a fan at all of Kobe Bryant either, but I had a lot of respect for him, maybe as a competitor, and I never like rooted for him. But man, like it's hard to say like with his mentality and stuff to not put him next. But I don't know, but then like what LeBron James and Stephen Curry have been able to accomplish and stuff, and Stephen Curry, like my thing with him is he's beat him heads up like in the biggest games, and people say, oh, he had this great team. He did, but Kevin Durant never won a damn thing without Stephen Curry. And I kind of thought that one was a little bit phony when the Cavaliers actually beat the Warriors, like how they suspended Draymond Green. It kind of was just I don't want to say it was phony, but it was just kind of some bullshit. But like I thought them Cavalier teams were really good. Like everybody acts like, oh, the Warriors team was so good, but those Cavalier teams were. I mean, they had like good teams, good players, good depth. They had a lot of good. Those were good teams, and I think that. The Warriors were too. They were, especially once they added Durant, it was like a joke,
So we're going to go now to a segment called Elevate Your Game. People ask me why I name the podcast Always Elevating. I'm big on progression. I'm big on always improving, getting better, adding to what I'm doing. So as basketball players, as trainers, coaches, whatever we're doing in our life, we want to get better at it. So briefly, tell me something, about you, it can be shooting, it can be basketball, training, anything. What's something that you want to get better at or add to whatever you're doing?
Yeah, it's always trying to get better at the basketball stuff on, what I'm doing on my own and my shooting and stuff I'm doing with my son. But yeah, I think some of the things that, if I'm gonna be honest, that I need to get better at is just being better, more calm, relaxed, like with my son, with my kids, with my wife, and I get stuck in this mode, like this competitive mode with the basketball. And sometimes I think I just need to chill, relax. Take a deep breath, and sometimes, I enjoy myself every day and have a great time doing what I do in my life. But I think sometimes just trying to be a better person, being nicer, being more calm, having more patience around the people that I love most and that love me most. And, that would be something that I can keep elevating and improving on outside of my basketball stuff.
That sounds good, man. So I'm about to, let you get up out of here, but we're going to play a game, my favorite game called Quick Blitz. So I'm just going to ask you about 10 to 15 questions. I'm going to give you 2 answers, and you just have to, answer as fast as possible.
Okay.
Okay, so you ready? All right. Which one would you rather watch, March Madness or the NBA playoffs?
March Madness, I guess.
Okay, they play
Jeez.
harder. Who's the better scorer, Kobe or Kevin Durant?
Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
I will say, though, back on your first question, I like the NBA way. I don't even watch college until the tournament.
The
NBA, I would choose way, overall, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay, who's the better player overall, Luka Doncic or Steph Curry?
Oh, Stephen Curry, no doubt about
Okay.
it, to me. Just because what he's able to do with his shooting, it doesn't compare to anything.
Okay,
You know?
who is going to go further in the playoffs next season, the Lakers or the Warriors?
Whew, I guess if I'm gonna be honest, I'd say the Lakers, but I don't think it's a shoo-in. If the Warriors make some sort of move or whatever, they gel good. You never know with injuries, but anyways.
Okay, so yes or no, will Victor Wembanyama be top 15 once the season finishes?
I'll say no, but I think he's gonna get better and kind of be close to that conversation.
Who's the GOAT, Jordan or LeBron?
Oh, we already said that, Jordan. I don't think that's even
Yes or no, will
question.
the Pistons make the play-in at least next season?
I'll say no, but I think they are going to get a lot better. I was really surprised as to how bad they were this year because I think they have some core young players that have some talent. I think they'll get better. I'll say maybe, somewhere around 25 to 30 wins. And maybe that next year you'll be talking in that conversation, hopefully, for them to be in that playing thing, and stuff.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you the question. Just answer it. Just answer the question. No explanation. One-on-one, Jason Tatum or Paul George?
Jason Tatum.
Okay. Yes or no, is there an asterisk next to Kevin Durant 2 championships?
Yes.
Okay. Yes or no, will LeBron James or Steph Curry win another ring?
That's a hell of a question. Oh. I'll say yes.
Okay.
Oof.
Yes or no, is Bill Russell top 10 greatest player ever?
I would say no, but I mean, it's
No, it's no.
huge argument there.
101, who will win, Kobe Bryant or Kevin Durant?
Kobe Bryant.
Okay. Will Michael Jordan three-peat in this era? Yes or no?
Will he what?
Will he three-peat in this era? Three-peat, win 3 championships in this era.
Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
He's not even playing. What do you mean?
I'm saying if he was playing in this era.
Oh, okay. I'm confused. Okay. Like, what the hell do you mean? It's like he's going to come out of retirement?
No, would Jordan win 3? If he was playing his prime, would he win?
Would he win 3 in a row? Yeah, I'll say yes.
Okay. 1-on-1, who's winning, Anthony Edwards or Jason Tatum?
Ooh, Anthony Edwards.
That's a good one. Who's the better overall player? We got Jason Tatum or Ja Morant?
Jason Tatum.
Okay. This is the last one. Next season only, who's going to have the better season? Jalen Brunson or Kyrie Irving?
Jalen Brunson for the now till eternity. I think he's so much better than Kyrie Irving ever dreamed of being. Jalen Brunson makes everybody better.
Anthony Miracola, man. Appreciate you coming on the show, man. Make sure you follow him on Instagram. I'm going to put his IG in the description. He's going to be at my 3-point contest August 31st. Let's see if he, make sure you come out. Let's see if he can win back to back. It's your boy AJ, Mr. Automatic Jumper. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're going to be dropping every week on the Always Elevating podcast. Stay elevated.